My father was an artist. As you can see, those genes were not passed on to me. He was actually an artist, and lots of drawings, paintings and so on of his I still have, and then they emigrated to New York and continue. But I tried to bring in the concept of the house, and in as much simplicity as possible. Normally I have a little model of the house kept on the table and use that model for the students to understand how writing and the building of a house or the house can go together. So instead of taking notes, if you just look at this house and are able to see and tell me what there is, then we'll be able to understand writing. What is here? Thank you. That's foundation. What goes up? Walls of the house. And what does it meet? Roof. And what is this? And what last? Chimney. You know, actually, this is quite okay, because in the chimney that I've got at my home, it is made up of cellophane tape, and every now and again my daughter's dog comes up, grabs it and runs away with it. And suddenly I'm talking about a house and I'm talking about showing them what a house is, my students, and there's no chimney. So, but here it looks like a waste paper basket on top.
Water tank.
Like a water tank. It's actually the chimney. It should have been right on top. But I didn't have space, you know. Anyway, why did I bring in this aspect of house and writing? And I'm going to tell you this just for you to remember the house always when you're thinking of blog writing, when you're thinking of videos, when you're thinking of podcasting, when you're thinking of anything that has to do with storytelling or creativity, or even the making of a speech. As soon as you think of speech, as soon as somebody asks you to make a speech or asks you to write an article, think house. Think house. Before I got into writing, I was into construction. And it was very strange. That was also part of my father's business. In the process of learning construction, I realized that building a house and writing an article is nearly exactly the same. It's more or less the same thing. And I'm going to tell you how. And you're going to remember this just by looking at the silly drawing that Bob has made and say, okay, now I remember. Can you see it? All of you? Okay, fine. Actually, I'm a good artist. It's just a blackboard. The board is like that. Okay. Now, when we are going to build a house, what is the first thing that we think of? Before we build a house, what's it that we have to think of? Before that? Before the blueprint.
Land.
Before the land. Before the land. Correct. Or you're saying exactly what happens when we decide on the house. But let's say that you're planning, okay, you're a sisters, and you decide that in a particular place, you're going to put up a building as another house, or a hospital, or anything that has to do with a building. Before that, what is the idea of putting up the house? Why are we doing it? Why are we putting up a house? Again, you're going to say shelter and so on. So, let's say that we have so many people, or if we are lay people, we have families, and then we want to cater to the family. So let's say that I'm newly married, and then one day I tell my wife, I have a what? I have a dream. I have a dream. And she tell me, be practical, Bob. What's your dream now about? And I say, no. I have a dream in which I'm going to make a home which will look after our future children. It will also look after our parents staying on top, and it will have a big bedroom downstairs, and I dare not say it will have a big kitchen, she'll throw me out, but it will have a small kitchen enough for somebody to come and cook. But I will dream not of the house, but I will dream about how the house is going to cater to all the people. The dream comes first. So dear sisters, before you write a story, before you write a speech, what you have to first work on is dreaming or working on in your mind the whole speech or the whole structure of your article or story. First dream it out. Complete dream has to take place, which means you're going to tell me, and you'll hear lots of authors saying, when I put my pen down on paper, my pen starts writing by itself. It doesn't happen that way. As soon as you put your pen down on paper, what you'll do is you'll stop creatively thinking, and you'll think only to that aspect which you thought till you put your pen down. Okay, do you understand what it is? But if you're going to write an article, a story, a novel, or if you're going to give a speech, think out or dream out the whole speech from the beginning to the end, which is so different from what you've been told till now. Think out and dream out the complete speech. When we are going to build a house, do we only think kitchen? Do we only think sitting room? We think the whole house, right? And in the same way, we need to think out our full story from the start to the beginning, which means pushing your mind, pushing your imagination. Your imagination says, okay, I got so far, now stop, put it down on paper because you'll forget. You won't forget. You won't forget. Dream the whole house through. So the first part is first is to dream. Before the house is, the first thing is your dream. Which means that you take your whole story and dream it out in your mind. There's no shortcuts here. The second is, and now we go directly to the house, because the dream comes from one bearded man. You got a beard. So that's the dream, right? The more you laugh, the more you remember. So the dream comes from somebody up there, and after the dream, he knows that he's got to put it into reality. Now we go directly to the house. First comes the dream, then comes, what does he do next? Yeah, the blueprint, the plan, the foundation. As I said, compare it to your writing. As I said, compare it to your speech making. First comes the dreaming of the full speech. Second comes the blueprint. Your dream is huge and big. Your dream can take the whole canvas. But how much does the foundation take? Just this little bit. And what does the foundation fill up? What is in the foundation? The planning. Somebody said blueprint? Blueprint, right? Has anybody seen the foundation of a house being built? Because, yeah. Because what happens in Bombay, because they're all into skyscrapers and multi-stories, when I talk of foundation, very few have seen foundations. You see it maybe in the places where there are still homes, where there are still houses, where and what happens is you'll go to see a plot and suddenly you'll go and see stones which are put round, isn't it? You'll see stones which are put, as usual, I've forgotten where yeah. You'll see something like this. You'll see a sitting room, you'll see a bedroom, you'll see something else here, you'll see an attached bathroom, you'll see something like this. That's the foundation, correct? Yes. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you go and see the foundation of the house, you can stand at the foundation of the house and you know exactly how the house is going to come up. You know exactly, because you'll say, oh, that little thing is the kitchen, that poor wife is going to have a tough time squeezing in there, because I know how fat she is, but anyway, we will not talk about that. You look and you can imagine the whole kitchen by looking at the foundation. You can imagine how big the bedroom is, you can imagine that, oh, the man has thought of an attached bathroom, he's thought of a staircase which goes up, no staircase can come down. But you can see the full plan of the house from the foundation. So, after you have dreamt your article, after you've thought about the whole thing, write it down like a blueprint and make it a plan. Which means that if you've got a 500-word article, write down a 50-word plan or plot. In writing jargon, in writing it is called plot. Write a plot. A plot is not a teaser. A plot is not saying this and happened. Now we'll see what happened next. That is a teaser which is at the back of the book. You know, when you're buying a book and you want to look at what is in the book, you'll look at the back and you'll say that so and so did this, so and so that. Now find out when you read the book what's going to happen next. Don't do that. That's a teaser. That's to make you buy the book. The plot is telling you all about the book in a short form in 50 words or so for a 500-word article. So here's the dream, and the dream is the whole article. The whole article. Then second is the plot, which is the foundation. Have you got it, class? So if I were to tell you to write a story, what's the first thing that you do? Dream the story, right? So let's say that it starts with once upon a time. That's the beginning of the story. What will it end with? I want the last one. Sister with the shortest speech. What's your name? Celestina. Yes. Okay, sister, tell me what would be the ending? If once upon a time starts with, what would you say the ending is? Give me like a fairy tale. You know, we have all read fairy tales. So once upon a time, and the end would be? They lived happily ever after. So, in other words, that we have got the beginning and we have got the full thing to the end. Okay? We've got the whole story in our mind. That is the dream. Don't forget that. Until that happily ever after, and whatever story you're writing, and hopefully the story you write won't have once upon a time and happily ever after, but just for sample, you can't go and do a blog and write once upon a time they lived this and they lived happily ever after. Times have changed, but just as a sample. So think of the beginning and go right to the end of the story. Then take that story in your mind and write down the foundation, which is the plot. This is your foundation. we build on top of the foundation? Walls. How do the walls go? Do the walls go to the left and the right and to the center? Do we take the walls and say that we'll go and build it on a neighboring plot? How do the walls of a house go? Straight up. Now compare it to a story. Just compare it to a story. What do the walls of a house compare in a story? You think. Now when you understand that we are bringing in a story, home, house comparison, right? We're comparing a house to a story. We're comparing a house to a speech being made. What do we mean that the walls go straight up? Think now. I'm not going to say it because if you think, you'll remember it. What are the walls going straight up? I can't hear. Pardon? Words. Connecting. That's very good because what you just now expressed is the effect of putting one brick on top of another. Beautiful.
It's
Beautiful.
a continuation.
It's a continuation. And the continuation has to be straight up. Now, why am I telling you this? Many of us start writing a story, and I'll give you a story. Jack and Jill went up the hill, and on the way, as they were halfway up, they saw another hill and decided to look straight in that direction. They were looking at that hill, and then Jack told Jill, let's go and climb up that hill and check to see whether there are any snails over there. So they both went walking over there to check whether there are any snails. And then as they were looking for the snails, they saw some caterpillars, and they also heard Jack's mother shouting and saying, Jack, come back home. So Jack went back home, brought some sandwiches, and then he went and decided to climb up this hill. But his mother said, go over there and meet your friend and become friends and play some games. So Jack played some games. He also learned how to cycle, and he also taught his friend Kumar to cycle over there. Now, what we are doing is we are filling words nonsensical because the house now is going not from the foundation, it's going here and there and here and there and here and there, it's not going on. If it sounded laughable, quite a few of our writers do that. We start writing a story and then we get lost in something. Jack and Jill went up the hill, and the hill was not one of those normal hills, which is okay. You're explaining the hill. It was a flat hill like a plateau. It was not a flat hill like a plateau. We're still talking of the hill, which is fine. But once you start saying that Jack climbed a little bit and saw another hill there and decided to explore that, then you have deviated from the story. You're just filling up your lines. So like the house going up, you cannot take the story anywhere else. Which means that you have to use a lot of your imagination, because your imagination will say, hey, I don't want to be used, let me start with something else, because anyway I have to fill up 500 words. I have to fill up 1,000 words. Some sister would have told you, write for this magazine, you write 600 words will come. So you want to write 600 words of this. But when you go straight up, your reader is gripped. But in the process of gripping the reader, you also have to push your mind. Jack and Jill went up the hill. The hill was not a plateau. The hill, when Jack looked up, was straight up. He did wonder whether he would be able to climb up right to the top. But Jill, who was next to him, said, Jack, we can manage to do it. Now, are we keeping to the story or not?
Yes.
Okay. When you keep to the story, the reader doesn't get bored. When you start deviating from the house, and if I had the writing skills of my father, I could have even brought in a balcony over here. Not writing skills, drawing skills. I could have brought in a balcony where the window is. Okay, but I thought I wouldn't go so far. My dad, wherever, I don't know, he's left me 20 years back. He would start yelling from wherever he said, Bob, let's leave the art alone, stick to your writing. Okay? If there was a balcony, the balcony is fine. But if I made a balcony which went on, out, and went to the neighbor's compound, the house would topple over. Which is a lot of the side effects we give to writing to be able to fill up space. Keep the story of Jack and Jill in your mind. So then what happens? Jack looks up the hill, Jill says we can climb with, they start walking up. Jack stumbles, Jill holds him. Is it still the story? Why? Because they're still climbing up. As long as you're keeping to the story and are not going left and right and thinking of another hill or thinking of Jack's shoelace and thinking of other things, it's fine. Walls of the house. Remember the walls of the house, my dear sisters, because even as you write, even as you do any kind of articles, any kind of a speech, the temptation will be to start what we call meandering or wandering, moving away and going into other directions. It's a big temptation. The discipline will be to tell yourself that I am a Kadiya, a mason, and I have to build straight and make my house go straight up. There's no two ways about it. Please understand this. I will send you a picture on WhatsApp, a better house than this, so that it will remain in your thing. And if you think my art is good, take a photograph of this. Okay? Make me happy. But anyway, walls go straight up. What do the walls finally hold? The walls finally hold the roof. Why do the walls hold the roof? And what could the roof be in a story? What could the roof be in a speech? What is the roof? End. Okay, so we have to come to an end. But before the end in a story, what is needed? See, we build the roof. It's going up. We build the walls. It's going up. What is the interesting part of a story which holds a story? Pardon? Tell me. Yes. But what comes before that? What brings that? It's called crisis. It's called a crisis. That finally, before we come to the climax or to the end of it, there is a crisis. There is a situation. There is something which is standing in the way, which makes the story interesting. If I were to tell you Jack and Jill went up the hill, and they went up the hill, and then it's not a story, by the way, it's just a nursery rhyme. There's nothing to it. There's nothing to it. But if I were to build up that story, how would I build it up? Thinking that there's a crisis. Jack and Jill went up the hill. Yes, Lavina, I know you know the rhyme. Okay. She was saying to fetch a pail of water. But what is the crisis? Let's make a crisis. Come on, Lavina. Let's make a crisis of it. A story. Jack and Jill went up the hill. Pardon? A stone prevented them from going up. Now that's a crisis. Something blocked them. That's a crisis. Jill's mother called out from her house saying, don't go up there with Jack. That's a crisis. Okay? Or Jack's mother saying, "Arey, you're going with that girl Jill. You know who all Jill goes up the hill with. Once she goes up the hill, she'll throw you down and you'll break your head." Actually, Jack should have listened to his mother. That's a crisis when there is somebody saying don't, a stone on the way. That's a crisis. Every short story, every novel, anything you write, the walls have to meet a crisis. It has to meet a crisis. A crisis means that there is a problem. Crisis means problem. Meaning that when you write a story, there has to be a problem and how you solve that problem. Otherwise, it is not a story. Okay? So Jack and Jill have to have a problem. We can make the problem in some way or other. It can be a simple problem like saying that Jack was lame and he could never do things. He was always scared of the hill. And Jill came along and said, Jack, no, you can climb up with me. I'll help you up. Solving of a problem. So many stories we can make out of Jack and Jill. But any story has to have a problem. And after the problem, which is the roof, which is the crisis, which means that all the bricks of the house should be in going up in some way towards the crisis, which is the roof. If there's no crisis, there's no short story. When you have the crisis, and when the walls are holding up that crisis well, then you know that this short story is going fine. But what shows that the short story is standing well is the fact that it has to have a good ending. A good ending. Okay? So let's put an ending to the Jack and Jill story. So can I sit on this table? Can I lean on this? Not so stout that it will fall. Anyway, what is the ending that we can give to the Jack and Jill story? Change that. Change that. They, like sister said, there was a stone. I said that Jack had a limp. He was scared to walk on top. Jill held him and went on top. What is the ending?
Reach the top of the mountain.
They climbed the hill. It's over. The ending was success. It's a simple story. The crisis was the fact that Jack had a limp. She decided that she'll help, Jill decided that she'll help Jack up. Jack managed to get on top of the hill, and from on top of the hill, he suddenly said, wow, I managed, I did it with Jill's help. And after that, you can continue with the story like Jack stopped looking at other girls and he said that Jill is the girl for me because Jill might not be as beautiful as all the other girls in the class, but she's one who helps me up, who helps others. You can build anything around it. And just for fun, you can say Jack was so filled with love with Jill, looking at Jill, that he slipped and fell and he went down the hill. But Jill, being such a good girl, did not want Jack to go down all by himself, that she held on to him and they both came tumbling together. Wow! You created a story out of a nursery rhyme, but you changed the nursery rhyme a bit here and a bit there. You brought in a crisis and you brought in a good ending and everybody's happy. That's the simplicity of a story. That's all a story is. It's so simple. You know, sometimes I wonder why we can't get that little moment when we say, oh, I know what a plot is, I know what a story is, let me create stories. Last month, I had 25 different stories from different writers, all from my class. And each one wrote a beautiful story. But I would say out of 25 stories, 21 people didn't bring in a crisis. Now, where did I find the crisis in the Jack and Jill story? In the story itself. So all I needed to do was take their own story, take one small little incident, make it into a crisis, and eureka, we created 25 stories which are going to be made into a book by 25th. When is 25th? Today is 22nd. By Wednesday. Wednesday it'll be starting to get into a book form. All I had to do, which took me 3 full months of nearly my head falling off, was to live in that story and find a crisis. All we have to do is to look for a crisis, look for the walls of the house going up, find the crisis which is the roof, and then comes the beautiful ending. Teachers, sisters, do you get it? Do you understand that you cannot write a story which says that, and I've got many stories like this way, Mary and John were living together in a village and they loved each other and had 3 children. After some time, Mary got a job in a school and John got a job in the post office. And John fell sick and Mary started working all the more harder. And after some time, John fell sick, John died. And Mary's faith in God grew. And it grew and it grew, and she was able to bring up her children. And that is the story of Mary. That is the story of Mary, the hardworking person she is. Lots of us write such stories. If you're talking of lots, I've just got 5 stories like this which has come to me from the present class. Did you hear the story just now?
Yes.
Okay. Can we make a crisis out of it? Where can we make the crisis? No. John dies. Tell me, sister.
After she lost her husband, her faith in God.
Perfect. You should be coming here and teaching, sister. I believe you me. Believe you me, are the first person who has spot on got it. What was the incident that increased her faith in God? You cannot just say that her faith in God increased. After John died, she was in the depths of despair, right? She needed an uplifting moment over here for her to change, and that is the crisis moment. That is the crisis moment from here, how she went up there. That's the end. The crisis is when John died. How did she change? That change. So let's make the change. What happened? What happened? John died. No, see, that's the problem. No, that's fine. Now take that she worked more hard and make it into an incident. Make it into an incident, something spectacular, something life-changing.
Maybe she heard a talk of a priest or read a story or something like that.
She either heard a priest or read a story. One moment, okay? A moment came. Somebody came home. Or she went to church and she heard a priest who said that, what? What about God? What did God say? I can do everything with God. Where's that? I can do everything with Christ which strengtheneth me. Right? So make that specific verse.
The one who looks after the sparrows.
So beautiful. Beautiful. So let's say that she looked out, she's in despair, she's standing, she's weeping, and suddenly she looks out of a window and sees a sparrow. And in the seeing of a sparrow, she starts hearing God says, if I can look after that little sparrow, I can look after you. And that is the eureka moment. That is the time when she changes. That is what people are looking for in a short story. What happened? Why the change? They know that after that she went towards God. But in a story, and actually when you look at it in your own incidents, you will find it is one moment in your life in which something happened in which the change took place. Correct? I remember one moment in my life when I was traveling from Madras to Bombay after my MA, and it was that moment when the train stopped at a station between entering the city of Bombay, and we had sold all our things in Madras. I had borrowed 500 rupees from a friend of mine with which I bought the train tickets, and there in the train we were going to set up business in the city of Bombay. I didn't even know Hindi that time, because in the south you don't need Hindi. As the train stood and I looked down at the water below at Thana station before we entered Bombay, all I felt was despair. Despair, because there was my brother and my father laughing away because they expected me to do all the sales. Bob is a great salesman, he can do all the sales. There was despair. And then I looked, and there was the moment I looked this side of the window and saw the stars. And I said, I am looking down at the water. There's a God over there in the stars. It was my eureka moment when I said that my life changed. When I said that I know who I can trust to get into the city and start doing well. People ask me, where did you meet God? I tell people I met God in my business. I met God when I was down thinking where I'm going to get money for my family. That moment I said, there, the stars were on this side of the train, looking down on me, not this side of the train, up on the train window, looking down on me. It was my eureka moment. How we normally tell the story? I entered the city of Bombay and my faith in God grew. No, that won't make a story. As I was entering, this particular incident happened. Do you understand? We need a moment. That will hold the roof, the walls will go straight up, it will hold the roof and everything will be fine. I forgot to do something, but anyway, I don't know. Inside the door and inside the house, what is there? Before the people. We're still talking of bricks and walls and roof and so on. What is there? Furniture. What is the furniture of a house? Think again, house. What is the furniture of a house? The furniture of the house are the words which we use when we write or we speak. If sister was speaking to children, she would be speaking using certain words. But if you were speaking to adults, you would be using better words, right, sister? And as I say this, sister yawns back at me. What is he talking about? I'm sorry, sister, I should have got your name right. Otherwise, everybody here is a sister. It could be anybody I'm talking about. I need to come to you and ask you. Give me your name again. Priyanka. Yeah. How could we forget that name? Priyanka, when you're talking to children, there are certain words which you use, right? Which is words which children will understand. And when we're talking to adults, we use not the words of childishness, we use better words, stronger words, bigger words. Liken it to the furniture of a house where we decide that we are going to take the furniture which is in the palace of King Charles. Queen is gone. King Charles, we decide that we are going to take those huge, big furniture and bring it to our little flat and put it in. What happens with the furniture? We'll have to break into the next house to see that the settee goes right there also, right? It'll be too big. It'll be too big for the room. The same way, have words which fit into your writing, depending on who you're addressing. This is very important, not just with children and with adults, but also sisters. If you're talking to the religious, please use words which they will understand. If you're talking to people who are not and to the secular India, please use different words. Every now and again I have people coming into my class and they say that we are evangelists. And I say, okay, why did you come to this class? If you're an evangelist, you obviously know how to speak. But I'm not able to get across to the people. How is it that you as a writer are able to get across to the people outside? Though you write words which are biblically based, how is it that you do it? Well, the difference is in how you use your words. So when you are addressing Christians or people who of your faith, there are certain words you use, but when you're talking to the people who do not profess your faith, learn to use the words which will get across to them. Please, we need to know this because up to now we are doing a bad job of it. a very bad job of it. And once you are able to do it, then you'll be able to knock me out of being the columnist over there, and you'll be able to get my column also. But we need to, and that's why I like when we touch on words, learn to be able to use the words depending on who we are addressing it. And please try to write for newspapers, even if it is letters to the editor. Please write letters to the editor if you are not happy about something. Practice with letters to the editor. That's the best way of starting your writing into the secular world. Letters to the editor. So, change your furniture according to the house you're building. What else do we have in a house? Furniture over. House is built. Roof is there.
Doors and windows.
Okay, so we are finished with all the physical parts of the house. Who was the house built for? Family. So we have family, and there's a father who walks like this way right across the house, and a mother who walks like this way right across the house, and children who walk like this way. Is that how our family acts? Like zombies? What is there then in a family?
Unity.
Love.
Wow, sister, you should see the unity in families. Yes. Let's put a better word for unity. Love. Correct. Love. So love is one emotion. What's the other emotions? Joy. Then? Laughter. Wow, what a beautiful house this is. You should come and see some of the houses I visit. Then? Anger. Wow, somebody's now come up with a cut. There's anger, there's words being thrown at each other, there's hate, and there's also reconciling emotions in your writing. Bring in emotions. When you don't bring in emotions, let's take the story of John and John who died and so on. If we just say John died and Mary was deep in despair, we are hardly expressing our emotion. But if we say that John died and Mary was weeping for days and days till that priest came over home and told her, that weeping shows the emotion. Mary was weeping so badly that even her brother was called, and he came home and he put his arm around her and said, Mary, stop weeping. We are going even deeper into emotion. Mary's tears were just falling to the ground, were showing even more emotion. That's how you build a story. The emotion has to be seen in word pictures. You have to express it. What we do in most of our stories is that we put Jesus on the cross over there, we show the disciples around him, we show a weeping Mary, and we don't go further than that. But just think about the emotions of Mary, his mother, in seeing her son on the cross. What did she feel? Can we put it in words? What's that statue? The Pieta. I still remember that. And there's just like the statues, there's a painting, painting which I saw in Portugal of Mary holding the body of Jesus, but she's not looking down at the body, she's looking at the distance. And I love that painting because she's in her face was despair, but also in her face was, yes, Lord, you told me about it, that he had come to save the world. Both expressions of despair and the fact that she had accepted God's will was in her face as she held the dead body, as she held the body. If we can express that in words, I try to do it in a poem in which I'm talking to Mary holding the body of Jesus. I try to do it in a poem. One day I'll share it with you. But if we are able to show despair in the tears dropping and the person crying, then our story becomes all the more vivid. Okay? So there's emotion. You know, I'm actually supposed to go fast on this. We'll go on opening it up as we go along. There's emotion. What else is there in the house? Like people walking up and down. What else is there in the house? What jumps onto people's laps? Pets. So pets, what do? Do they go around the house biting the people all the time and then think? But what do? They play. So in anything that you write, see to it that there is a little bit of laughter, a little bit of naughtiness, a little bit of yourselves coming into it. Bring that into even a serious article, even if it's a research article. Show something. Show a little bit. So that's pets. And now we come into my great design over here. This is something called a waste paper basket, something called a water tank. It is a chimney. What is the chimney in your writing? What does the chimney do in a house? It takes off all the toxic material, it takes off all the waste. Right? Before sending your article to the editor, whether the editor is another sister, the editor is the Times of India editor, please go over it carefully and edit it and see that you put the A and the D and the apostrophe and everything else. Without that, don't send the article out. Editing. And then, can you see these little green things here? What's that? What? You said waste? I told you my father's an artist. See, if my father's an artist, that doesn't mean I'm one. That's supposed to be the garden. Horrible garden. But normally, let's look at we have garden over here, right? What does the garden tell people who are walking outside? What does it tell you? What does it tell the people? What?
Natural. Something.
No, what does it convey to the people? Love of God? Yes? No? You're right. It conveys to the people outside that the people inside are good people. It's giving a message. It's telling, when you look at the garden of a house, by looking at the garden, you can make out what kind of people are inside. If it's totally in the shape of animals and giraffes and you haven't done that, right? Yeah? Before I criticize, I better know that. No, it's all natural here. It doesn't look like, because it's all trees grow like trees, plants like plants, flowers like flowers. Yes. It tells the people what kind of people stay inside. People who love nature. That attracts people to the house, which means, sisters, that your first paragraph, your title of your article, those are the things which draw people into your writing. The garden of the house is seen much before they enter the house. It's seen much before you give them tea and coffee. The garden of the house, when people see, it's telling them, hey, come in, we are good people over here. And your first paragraph, if it does not invite people to read your article, you have wasted your time. Your first paragraph should be so striking, so strong, so inviting that it draws people in. Please understand this, because otherwise you can be the best writer in the world, and if you don't draw people in, nobody's going to read it. Like if you were to write for a newspaper, your column will be fighting against death and all the other stupid things that happen in a country. People love reading all that. How do they read your column? It'll always be by your first line, your first paragraph, your title of it. Correct? That's how you read columns also. So remember to make your first paragraph interesting. How do we make it interesting? We'll be going into that slowly. So that's it. We've finished the house. We have talked about your foundation, which is your plot, your walls, which is unraveling your story, and how to unraveling a story and also building up the character. Your roof, which is the crisis, furniture, which are the words and sentences, the people, which is passion, pets, which is jokes and anecdotes, garden, which attracts and is a curiosity factor for your story, the chimney, which is editing, and the light which comes out of your house, which I couldn't draw. I don't know how to draw light. I should have had yellow chalk maybe and put light coming out. But if you have the light coming out, the purpose of your article is either to entertain or to help people change. The purpose of your speech is either to be a comedian and sit here and change a half an hour of a good meeting, or it is to help people change. That is the light which you're supposed to throw out to the world. And that is the house. So remember the house, remember your writing. As you now do an assignment, oh, how happy you are. Because how are you going to sleep now and how are you going to do that? Tomorrow we need to do something all of today evening, isn't it? So we're going to do one thing now. I want each one of you to write me. Sister in yellow, what's your name? Yeah? Valentina. You look so shocked just now. And not that you showed shock, it was like if your glasses were not there, your eyes became big. 500 words right now, tonight, a 500 word article. First, dream the story. Then write the plot. First write the 50 word plot, then write the 500 word article. First dream the story, write the plot, and then write the story based on the plot. And tomorrow, we will do what they do in medical schools. We will take each story and we will use that as the cadaver and we will dissect it, open it, and instead of cutting it into pieces, we will resurrect it. We will resurrect it. We will change that story into a more dynamic story based on what you hear somebody's story and you say, hey, the garden of the house is not there. And that person can change the garden of the house. You understand? But it will be based all on the stories which you write. By tomorrow morning, you can bring that story. That's all, only 500 words. A 50 word plot, first you write and then expand it into 500 words. Now take down this email address. It is R, that's Robert, my name, TTG, RTG, T for Tango, T for Trump, T for Tamil Nadu, RTG, G for Geography, Clements, CLEMENTS, RTG Clements at gmail.com. Would you like to send your stories by email or would you want to send it on WhatsApp? Have you all got email?
Yes.
All of you?
Yes.
You find it more comfortable on email or WhatsApp? Email is, you might not have laptops with you. Do you have laptops with you?
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I assumed that. Good I realized this. So what we'll do is, can we write the story then on paper?
Yes.
Okay, naturally, you all have come from different places and you haven't brought your laptops. So let's do one thing. Write your 50-word plot on your mobile and send it to me. The 500-word article, you write it on paper. That'll be okay, because then you don't have to use your fingers and write 500 words, which would be difficult on the phone, isn't it? Or if you want to write the whole everything and send it to me on the thing, good. Whichever is convenient. 50-word plot, each one of you send it to me on my mobile. You can send it to me by Gmail or you can send it by WhatsApp. But your story, you can either choose to send it after the article or you can write it and keep it on a paper and keep it ready. Which means that you have to look at the plot and on the plot you have to write the story. By tomorrow morning, and then we'll have fun looking at all the, normally after, yeah, really, because through this we get to know writing, and the whole idea is it's an intense course that we will come out of it as writers. We are not coming here just to listen to me speak. We're coming here to take your writing and make it even better. So there's no other way. So let's do it. Okay?